second edition of O Magazine, which would mean now probably 22, almost 23 years ago, I interviewed Jane Fonda. And I was struck by how evolved she was. She said, I'm no longer striving to be perfect because I know it's not attainable. I strive for wholeness. That was the first time I'd heard that word used that way. She said, I want to be whole. And that stayed with me. And now I think the culture is catching up, as evidenced by the Lonan article, turning its focus from wellness now and well-being, shifting to filling yourself, becoming more whole, more complete. Understanding and achieving wholeness, I gotta say, takes a lot of work. It's about tuning out all the chatter around you and being able to listen to the most important authority of all, and that is yourself. And then it's about releasing any notions of perfection, because that is not the goal. Progress is the goal, toward a space where you feel more whole and complete. Years ago.
Okay, so we're going to, I am going to give an expanded feedback on top of my response that you could see on the screen that I responded to that video. And gonna share how voices like Oprah Winfrey and many others have been voices that has led generation to where we are right now. They are the ones that our parents, my mother, grew up listening to around that age time, right? And then we heard about her because we would come home and our parents would have the Oprah Winfrey show on, Donnie Hugh, Sally Jassy Raphael, all of those guys, right? And that was the era that they placed voices and people like Oprah to be the ones leading. They were the pipers of our parents' generation. And now we have what we have now. And that's why the last 3 years has been able to be ushered in, because they prepped and primed a generation to no longer have the ability to have that intuition when something is wrong. Because of energies like Oprah Winfrey, they were able to guide humanity away from the source of this wholeness that she's saying now is where there's a shift. And Jane Fonda was the first person she heard. Now, Oprah said that she grew up in the church. So I don't know how Jane Fonda was the first person that she heard talk about wholeness, because it says, and again, it all depends on what you were, spoon-fed. But if you had a relationship with the Most High, God, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever English name people want to debate and fight over, at the end of the day, the Most High, the creator of all, it has been already stated thousands and thousands of years ago. If Jane Fonda is the first person you heard, that's for you. But Jane Fonda is not the person that put that notion into being. It's been already here. The design of the human being is designed to be whole, because we were separated. We were separated from that ultimate source that gave us wholeness. So the pursuit of feeling whole has been a human being experience and journey and yearning and desire. And that's why many, before Jane Fonda, Oprah, has been doing everything to fill that gap, that void, that sense of not being whole. And they have tried so many different things and different ideologies and vices and external things to fill that void, and it hasn't worked. Many have tried internally to find all these different belief system and ideologies and to fill that human desire to be whole, because we are always going to feel like we're missing something and there's something to be filled, because that's has been placed in us, because that is what has been there when man separated from the Most High, when man separated their presence, their reliance. When man said, I want to have knowledge and wisdom of the world, and listen to the temptation of the voices of the world, the temptation of that energy that says you don't need to listen to instruction, you don't need to be obedient to instruction. That voice that says, that there's something being hidden from you, and it's being hidden from you because it knows if you know it all, you're going to be great and powerful. And that was the first time human being did what now is a habitual pattern, to deny the truth that we are to be whole, be ye whole, and be one with the Creator, the way it was in the beginning. And when there was a separation from that oneness, there has been that gap. Now, that nonsense that she talks about with perfection is not attainable, that's another hogwash. That's BS. And that's what I put in my comments. And if you are looking at the YouTube video, you would see my comments that I placed right on Oprah's page and in the comments to this. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, feel free to go over to the YouTube channel and you'll see the video that we were just all looking at, and my comments that's there. To expand on that, and in the comments I put the verses, but to expand on that, this statement of perfection is unattainable, that is why we have been the whipping of people like Oprah, these elites. They're going to keep stepping on the quote unquote middle class or the common people, because we sit at their table and we listen to this nonsense that perfection is unattainable, when the Most High, that gap, that sense of void of looking to be whole, and Jane Fonda in all their pursuit, nobody that is not pursuing a mirror image of the Creator will always feel like they're missing something. And you'll try all these different vices and things and exterior things, and you could even go into the meditation and all that, and you're always going to feel a gap. There's always going to be this feeling that you're not complete. And it's supposed to be there, because you're not supposed to be complete until you do the work of wanting to be that mirror image, because in that mirror image is completeness. So when she says that perfection is unattainable, that's BS. And she's talking about, the journey of wholeness is, stop the nonsense. It's not that hard. Just like everything else they've made us to believe everything is it's very, very simple. But it's so simple, we don't believe the simplicity of the answer. And because they are so good at telling you it can't be that easy, they've intentionally made this thing like you have to jump through hoops, you got to do all this 15, 25 steps, 19 steps to this, 20, buy this book, go to this training course, do this, and everybody's spending, and they know they got you, which is in your pocket. It's all about keeping them relevant so that they can stay in their lifestyle. Because they know the pursuit of wholeness is never going to occur. Just like the pursuit of happiness that everybody was on the bandwagon because of that movie depicting the real life story. The pursuit of happiness. Listen, pursue your image to return to the mirror image of what and who man was intended to look like and be like. In that image is the wholeness that everybody desire to seek and to have. When it says, let us make man in our image, that image was wholeness. That image was completeness. And we have stepped away from that mirror image. And we're going further and further away because of soothsayers and worldly wise like Gail and Oprah and all the other ones before, in between, and who would come. If we don't see them for who they are, if we don't see them, and who is their new replacements? If you notice in the talk show role, there's a lot of new generations coming up. Jennifer Hudson, Tamara Hall, Sherry, who's taking over for Wendy, that girl from Destiny Child, forget her name, not Kelly Rowland. They're all having talk show series and episodes, and it's like they need a new generation of Oprahs. They need a new generation of Sally Jassy. They need Barbara Walters. Like they're dying, as every human being is going to. And that's another thing. If we stop and think about this madness, this train ride that they has us going on, to do what? Nobody's escaping death. Nobody. So we're doing all this and following all this and spending all that to what? We all are mating that day of our last breath. And how much human resources have you spent pursuing, going through all the channels and jumping all the hoops and spent all your money, and you still don't feel whole? In the religious sector, so many mega churches and so many pastors whose lifestyle is so much better than their members. Yet still the members really believe it's biblical for them to be paupers and begging and don't know where it's happening, but they need to support the first lady and the man of God. Are you not a man of God? Are you not a woman of God? Like, another podcast. So let me I'm telling you, we are I see how these people has survived. They bring up new generation. They pass the mantle over. I saw TJ Jake now passing the mantle over to his daughter for her to continue in the deception and the lies. And the stadium and the auditorium is hollering and yelling and screaming. And none of you all have their lifestyle. And every one of you all are the ones sustaining their lifestyle. And when the time came for their lifestyle and their life to be the lighthouse, to feed the people in the day of famine, called right now recession, called the past 3 years, the storehouse, the barn, the place that they were supposed to have been packing up, like the days of Joseph, who were the seers and the listeners to know that there was a famine coming and they need to store up. So when the famine come, the people are going to be fed. No, the people had to be fed by Pharaoh, the government. And there was fine prints. For you to get fed by Pharaoh, you need to inject yourself with Pharaoh's answer and his serum. Because the men and women of the church, your stalls were found empty. Your storehouses were barren. There was nothing stored up for the people because they all ate it for themselves and fattened themselves and stored it for themselves, and the people perished and starved. And then they were at the beck and call and at the mercy of Pharaoh. So Pharaoh was the ones that fed the people with strings attached. So many had to assume the mark of Pharaoh, had to bow down and kiss Pharaoh's pinky ring. And Pharaoh felt like a god. Justin Trudeau felt like a god because his words cut your ability to provide. And you had to do what he said to your body that is supposed to be the temple of the Most High. Many of you talk about your body as a temple of God. Well, no, it was owned by Justin Trudeau. And he showed you who the daddy was. He showed you who was daddy. He showed you who your father is. Because many of you that says, no, my father's in heaven. Well, when the time came, you assumed Justin Trudeau's mark and you assumed his decree. And many of you took the mark of compromise, took the mark of having to swallow your pride and do what you know was not in line with your spirit, your gut. Everything was screaming, no, 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 this isn't right. But you had no choice because you looked to the left, you looked to the right, and your leadership was quiet. And if they weren't quiet, they were muzzled with a mask over their face. And then they told you, you need to, we need to listen to Pharaoh, because we need our grant money. We need our doors to stay open because they're gonna Pharaoh and his army is gonna come and bust in our doors. We can't be praying and we cannot be professing the name of God because Pharaoh's foot soldiers are gonna come and bylaw officers are gonna come and chain up the door and kick in the door. So Pharaoh showed you who is your real daddy, who was your father. So this is why you have many like these still opening their mouth and speaking to the multitude, because your true prophets and prophetess are all fattened from the table of Pharaoh, and they all assumed the mark of compromise, and they led their flock, like the sheep, to slaughter. Many were harmed. Many are still being harmed. And you guys still go into those brick and mortar houses of lies and deception. And you still give your human resources to many like Oprah in the world and many like your religious leaders in your religious circle. So when she talks about there's nothing as perfection, that's a bag of hogwash. If we go and we remember this thing called the scripture, the word of God that many were found not to know in the days of testing, many were found not to know the word of God. Many were found not to know the word of God. How do you know? Everybody was listening to what the news said, what the pastor said. Nobody was listening to what the Spirit of God was telling them. You were relying on man to interpret the times because for some reason heaven was shut up. No, heaven was not shut up. Many of us heard exactly what time this was. And many relied on their pastors and their leadership to tell them. And that is the difference between relationship and religion. And that's the difference between the broad and the narrow. And many of us who've been in relationship, we heard loud and clear what this moment in time was. And we needed to be patient and we needed to wait. We needed the multitude to go forward and do what they were going to do. And we needed to now buckle down and know that we're in a time of testing. And then this is also a moment for us to watch. This was a time for us to watch. Watch and see how your leadership responded. And this is how you'll know who is true, who's really true. Just watch. Watch who caved in. Watch who bowed down. Watch who resisted. Watch who said no. Watch who risked their job because they really know that their sustenance comes from God. They knew what time it was, and they knew this was a moment of testing, of thrashing. You talk about beating a year, 2 years, 3, a beating, wearing people out to see who was going to break. And who was going to say, listen, death is no promise to everyone. So if it means I die starving and I'm not taking the mark of compromise, I'm not having Pharaoh pass the jurisdiction of my body being his property. I came in this world free and I'm going to leave free. I'm playing, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. I'm giving all these taxes that supposed to should have been finished after the World War. The taxes only came in, they said at that time, to assist that war, and it was supposed to end. Yet still, we're still here with it. But guess what? Nobody's pushing back. Nobody's calling the government foul. We all are now being told that we need to continue to pay these taxes. And taxes keep going up, and we're not really seeing the benefit of the, no, we're not seeing the true benefit of these. So we play by the rules. We pay our EI, we pay our CPP, we pay our taxes. And then when it's time for you to collect insurance, employment insurance, to tell you that you didn't qualify, you don't have enough hours. Or worst case, a lot of people during the lockdown who were eligible for EI, they automatically got served, and then now they're being told that they need to pay the money back. Many of them are like, I didn't ask you to give me serve. I applied for EI because I paid into that. I paid into EI. You automatically gave me serve, and now you're telling me I need to owe back. How about you take the money back from my EI that I was supposed to get in the first place? How about you do that? So look at what these people did, and look what we are allowing them. They might have done it, but the people are allowing them. You paid into your EI. When it's time for you to collect your EI, they gave you CERB, and now they send you a letter saying you owe them, so you have to pay them back. So technically, what did you get? You paid into something, and when you really needed it, they gave you something else, and then have the audacity to tell you, oh, you didn't qualify for that. You have to give us the money back. Okay, so how about you give me what I was qualified for in the first place? And second, it was automatic. Did you get my consent? I didn't consent for you making a unilateral decision to give me something I didn't apply for. I applied for what I paid for. I paid into EI. No. Where is the revolt on that? People are picking party sides. Nobody's picking the sides of truth and honesty. The Trudeau government pulled a fast one on the people of Canada with the support of the NDP. That's supposed to be a Labour Party. That's supposed to be for the workers. Mind you, the union people, they're well taken care of. And when the time came for them to have defended their brothers and sisters, they allowed many of them to get thrown under the bus. So really, who's looking out for you? Who's really looking out for the middle class? Who's really looking out for the people? Who? The people have to start looking out for themselves. And you need to start looking at the leadership, not as any party loyalty. Look at leadership that is being integral, being fair. Being fair. Trudeau and his ministers, they are stealing. They see this like taking candy from a baby. They're robbing the people, and then they put the debt back on you for you to pay back. Imagine that. You did not tell Justin Trudeau to lock you down when he had credible doctors, scientists, nurses, frontline workers telling him, we do not need this. There's no scientific proof. And he decided to ignore them, just like his arrogant self has been pompous in every step of the way. All his responses are so arrogant. It's disgusting when you look at that man. He feels like he's on a supreme level. Walks around because he has security guard with guns, but then he's going to the hunters that need to hunt for their livelihood and everything else, and want to take away their guns. And they use their guns for their livelihood. His guns is to protect him from what? From people who might come at him because they realize that he has taken away everything. He's okay to be protected. Protected from people that he has a very strong feeling gonna get to a tipping point. It's just human nature. And he knows he's playing Russian roulette with human nature. He knows he's pushing Canadians. So what does he do? Take away your livelihood and say it's about safety. But he's walking around with a whole heap of armed men with guns. What does he need gun for? We all know why. And he doesn't have them. The people around him do. And they're risking their life for a man that's destroying our country. And the RCMP and everybody's not doing nothing what is right. But they're going to go after Canadians. They're going to go after Canadians and take away their livelihood because Justin Trudeau decreed something. His foot soldiers are going to go just like they went and smashed in the windows of small businesses, changed the locks, taped up small business because Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford said to lock everything down. Their foot soldiers is the one that went through this. The bylaw officers that felt all of a sudden, they felt so good to have all this control to destroy their own people's lives because of an unjust and unlawful decree. It's his foot soldiers that are doing this. The men and women who put on their uniform and feel like they're better than everybody now because they have a uniform. And they're going on and all they're saying is, I'm just doing my job to destroy your way of life. You don't see it now. You don't see it, do you? Maybe if we stop listening to these people like Oprah Winfrey talk about perfection is unattainable, we would stop playing lowball. We'll stop going after the low-hanging fruit. And we'll just end it. We say enough is enough. There is the ability to perform perfection. That is why we let these people go. And we say, oh, nobody's perfect. No, actually, you know why nobody's perfect? Because we keep playing lowball. And we keep saying nobody's perfect. Just like in these churches, when you have all these adulteries, all these pedophilia, all these violations, and we say, oh, well, nobody's perfect. There is no perfect church. This word just keeps going around and gives a passing card for people to operate unethical. And all we say is, well, there's nobody perfect. There's no perfect church. He's not a perfect leader. He's not a perfect husband. She's not a perfect wife. That's not a perfect boss. That's not a perfect pope. That's not a perfect. And we just allow their decision to be unethical, to be a passing card to say there's nobody perfect. It said right here, therefore, you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. There's some words there. Shall be. You shall. It's like when you talk to a child and said, no, you're going to be great. You shall be XYZ. Oh no, you know it's going to happen. Why? Because mom is, dad is, your grandpa is, and you start telling your children what they can do because of who already did it, who is being it. So you can look at mommy, daddy, great, great, grandma, all the way back, but there is someone who had the first person that set this off. You talk about setting it off. Who set this off? A perfect being. And that perfect being said, let us make man in our image. That image is perfection. We were once that image, and we listened to voices that now made us what? Flawed. So now it's what? For that to do the hard work? Or is it for us to do the hard work, to no longer accept that statement that nobody's perfect and say, nobody's perfect, but who the hell is doing the hard work to get to that? Who's saying, if I need to divorce, if I need to say no to that contract, if I need to say no to that business, if I need to walk away, if I need to resign from being an RCMP officer, if I need to resign from being a police chief, if I need to resign from being a nurse, if I need to resign from all of these headship that are unethical, if we have more people standing on integrity, we raise the bar instead of allowing it to get lower and lower and lower into the gutter and into the cesspool. If we say to the pastor, the first lady, and all these titles that we give that says no, you're no longer in that position because you are okay in being imperfect. You're okay in it. Are you going to mess up? Hell yeah. But are you going to make excuses, or are you going to own it and step down instead of saying, I want to still be in this position? What example are you setting? And then you ask your congregation to now support the predator, and now you attack the victims. You attack the ones that say they're standing on principles. Because apparently you're now saying you need to protect the image of the church. You need to protect the church. The church don't need protecting because the church is the body of Christ. The body doesn't need protecting. The body needs fortifying. That's what the body needs. God don't need your protection. Trust and believe. God is looking at you like, I need you to protect my image? No. How I need you to fulfill my image. That's what I need. My image created you. Let us make man in our image. My image, who I am, who we are. The characters of the Most High. Wisdom, knowledge, understanding. We all came together. And we said, let us make man in our image. So listen, we don't need you. Listen, we're good, eh? As a snap of the finger, all this can be just over. No, we need you to fulfill the image. We don't need you to protect it because you ain't doing nothing to protect it. If anything, you're doing everything under the sun to harm it. Therefore, you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is. Not going to be perfect. Your Father is, so you shall. And it doesn't say, therefore, you're going to be perfect. It says, you shall be. It's saying it is. It's not a. So when Oprah talks about it's unattainable, she right there is anti-scripture. She's a liar. What do you mean it's unattainable? If the word said it shall, but you're saying it's unattainable, so that means God is a liar, Oprah, and you're talking the truth? If it said you shall be, and then you're saying perfection is unattainable, so who's lying? Because you want the world to listen to you to say it's unattainable, but the word says it shall. That's like, again, an adult speaking positivity into a child and say, you shall be great. And someone says, please, great what? Listen, that's unattainable for him. That's unattainable for her. Like, listen, don't believe that. Just listen. Stay in your lane, all right? You're not going to be that. There you go. And that's what Oprah is. Oprah and all of those that talk like that is telling you that the word is a lie. Being perfect is not attainable. And when you believe something's not attainable, guess what? You're not going to pursue it. You're not going to pursue perfection, so you shall be perfect. And that would mean that you're going to have to make some hard decisions of who you stay connected to, where you stay connected to, and how you remain connected to certain things, people, places, and spaces. When it says at the top here, when it talks about loving your enemy, it's so funny. We had a devotional and we talk about loving your enemy. And the joke that came, I remember my son, we're talking, and he's just like, does that, when you say love your enemy, is it a love of pity? Like, you just love them. Like, how Christ said, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Like, you love them with pity. And you just say, you know what? My enemies, they don't know who they're messing with. I'm like, yep, that's it. Many of us has misunderstood this statement to love your enemy, and you love bomb your enemy. That's why the past 3 years, your enemy has been loving the fact that you've been love bombing it because of all the liars that has taught you this scripture wrong, and they've taught you to prep you for such a time as 2020, where you go around loving your enemies and you're praying for those that treat you badly, not really understanding what it meant. You're not love bombing the enemy, evil, disgustingness, what comes to steal, kill, and destroy. You don't love it. You don't love bomb it and sit by the campfire and sing kumbaya, pass the marshmallows with it. No. The love is a love of pity. Like, you know what? Boy, I'm sorry for you. True, you don't know who you're dealing with, and true, you don't know who you're messing with. It's all right. I love you I love you with the love of God, because trust and believe your day is coming. Your day is coming. And my love is a love of pity, because you don't know what you're doing. When I mean that, you know what you're doing, but you really don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray that you allow yourself to see. And I'm loving you so much that I am praying for you to see. I am praying for you to see how your steps are going to go over that cliff. I'm praying out of love that you turn yourself away from the lies that you tell yourself, because there is destruction coming. I love you enough to want you to see that what you're doing is going to cause a lot of harm to you and the people that you say you're doing this for, because you say you love them. I love you. So I am going to pray for you, and I am staying far away from you, because there's something called wisdom. Let us make man in our image. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is all part of the characteristic of the Most High. You have wisdom. You have the knowledge, and you have to pray for the understanding of those two. And how do you move forward with that? So you can pray for that person, your enemy. Love them from a distance. It's the truth. Being honest in where they are. Knowing and seeing who they really are and how they're operating. And you step the heck away from it. And you love your enemy from a distance. You don't participate from a distance. There's times when you sit with the leper and you eat with them. You help the beggar. You be the good Samaritan, and you go over and you pick that person up. Yes, there's a time for that. And there's a time where you stay far away and you just let your voice carry. You guys got to remember all the stories that are there. There's times when the Most High stood afar off and allowed his word to go and meet. Not all the time the Most High sat down and went and mingled with death, sin, disease, leprosy. We heard one or two stories, but it was not all that he went and he sat with. Many he could have instantly been there, but he just sent his word. He spoke things. Many of you, it's important for you to understand when and how you apply this thing called loving your enemy. And what does that look like? How does that look like? Therefore, you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. That's one of the passages. Okay? The other one, that is from Matthew chapter 5, for those that wanting to know. And that's from the whole chapter as a whole, the Beatitudes. The next chapter that I raised in that comment with Oprah is Philippians chapter 3, verses 1 to 3, and then to 16. When it talks about, let me pull that one over. And it talks about having no confidence in flesh. And how does this passage correlate with be ye perfect? Many of you have put too much confidence in flesh, in people, in freedom fighters, in influencers, in government, in Dr. Fauci, in Bill Gates. CP24 News, all of these talk show hosts, a lot of you put a lot of confidence, and it told you right here, even in your pastors, you put a lot of confidence in flesh. And there's a whole chapter that talks to you and warns you about that. There's a whole chapter. So you have Philippians 3. Let me just put this to the top. I think that's as far as it can go. Yeah, Philippians 3. Specifically, when it talks about for us to only live up to what we have attained. Let me pull it. Let me try to make this go all the way. There you go. Only let us live up to what we have already attained. When it said you shall be perfect, it's already attainable. It's already, when people tell you something is not attainable, something's not possible, it shows you their belief system that they want you to adopt. They want you to adopt their belief system. When they see that you're a person that moves with possibility, they want to dumb you down. They want you to accept and start to move in their low vibration and tell you something's not attainable. And they want you to say, yeah, you're right. No, it says, let us live up to what we have already attained. It's really important that many of you blow off the dust off of your scriptures and start reading it for yourself. The last 2 years should have been what you were doing with your time. Too many of you tuned on and listened to flesh, and you started to have confidence in flesh. If you actually use that time, and that was a beautiful time in history, and it passed many of you by. Imagine a time of history when the whole world had the ability to be quiet, to be still, don't move. And you had so much time for yourself, and Pharaoh was paying you. Pharaoh was sending you a check because the church was empty. There's nothing in their storehouse. All of your tithes and offering, nobody saved up for a rainy day, because the church definitely didn't save up for a rainy day. They ate it all with all of their lifestyle. And they didn't allow you the tithes that because the tithes had to go to pay off debts. They want a big church, a big this, a big that. So you were paying off debts. Instead of saving, you were paying debts. And nobody was saving for a rainy day. Definitely the church fund wasn't paying, because the church building fund is always for the building. Brick and mortar. The brick and mortar couldn't feed you, couldn't clothe you, couldn't sustain you. It closed down. It couldn't even house you. If y'all got kicked out, none of you could have moved into the brick and mortar because the doors were shut. Okay. All right. So it says here, could read it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Take no confidence in flesh. Stop putting confidence in flesh. Stop listening to soothsayers like Oprah Winfrey and so many others. Perfection is attainable. We've already attained it. Why? Because we were made in the image of perfection. It was already there. We now have to do the hard work, the mirror work of owning, so that we can return to what we've already attained. But our forefathers sold our birthright out. And many are still selling out their own birthright by compromising every day, living in sin, living in disgustingness, making excuses for their sinful ways, finding somebody to blame why they did something that they knew was wrong, and trying to justify. And they live a life of justifying sin, justification of their sin, and finding some good in their sin. Some have the audacity to actually say it's God's will. And God, listen, the Most High does not make mess. The Most High does not bless mess. Mess is there, and the Most High can create a beautiful piece of art out of a messy situation, and it requires mirror work. It requires total accountability for the image that many are reflecting, and it's not a reflection of the Most High. It's not a reflection of what was already perfect. And nobody is doing the hard work to get back to that mirror image, doing your mirror work, because everybody's believing what people like Oprah Winfrey and Jane Fonda and what the new crave now is seeking wholeness. And nobody's realizing seeking wholeness is not listening to the ultimate being of self, as Oprah says, because self is cantankerous and contaminated. It's listening to the Most High and being honest about what virtue really looks like, not virtue signaling. What does virtue really look like? Virtue really looks like not forcing people to do things to their body for a paycheck. That's not virtuous. That is definitely not godly. Especially when the force behind it is fear. It says, the Most High never gave us a spirit of fear. It gave us a spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind. Nobody's anxious. You're allowed to be critical thinking. Sound mind means critically thinking. When you have an energy that is doing everything for you not to critically think, watch that energy. When it keeps hitting you with one fear, one drama after the next, where you're just not able to sit with self and figure things out, when it doesn't give you access to information so you could make a well-informed decision, be careful with that energy. When it keeps pumping fear, be careful with that energy. Be careful with the energy that likes to throw back in your face the very same thing it did. Justin Trudeau is the master of that. The Liberal NDP coalition, they are a master. Provincially and federally, they are the masters and the mistresses of that. Sometimes when I hear them talking, I was just like, you guys are so bold-faced. Like, you have the nerve to say that? That is exactly what you did. NDP and Liberal. Both levels. You're talking about honesty, integrity, being there for the working class, the middle class. You oh my God. I'm like, but God's not going to come from heaven. There's no lightning bolt that's going to come and strike none of them down, because the people, you are the energy. You are the lightning bolts right here on earth. You are the one with the power. You, middle class Canadians, temporary resident, permanent residents, or citizen, you are the one with the power to end this. Stop eating what Justin Trudeau and the NDP is serving. This is not a time for you to be party affiliated. This is time for you to be integrally affiliated. And there's nothing that Justin Trudeau did that was integral. Absolutely nothing. And for you who did not allow yourself to listen to what doctors and nurses said, and you allow Justin Trudeau and the media that he boastfully, I have it in one of my podcasts, where he boastfully bragged that he gave the media $200 million. He says, of course they're going to do what I say. We give them $200 million. They're so out in your face about it. But you don't listen to that. You don't listen to what they are freely saying, because you know where you see those interviews? On the alternative media. Mainstream media don't show you those interviews of what they're saying right out of their mouth. Their speeches that they make in places and spaces. You don't see those speeches. The reporters aren't reporting those speeches. You only see what is on CPAC, or when they're having their public announcements or whatever, or when they're in question period or whatever. You don't see the interviews and the speeches they make at their country clubs or at their organizations, at their trust fund organizations, at their hedge funds organizations, at their, like, you don't see those speeches because they're on alternative media. And Justin Trudeau told you not to listen to alternative media. So I see many of you in Twitter and on all these channels making comments about Rebel News and True North, and there's a lot of alternative. Sometimes I am shocked when I see National Post or Toronto Sun. I think sometimes the Star would put it in there. I'm like, oh, but there's so many of you don't read anymore, and it's not throwing shade at you. Many of you don't read. You don't, like, you need everything to be instant, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. This podcast, so many of you, is going to be too long. You don't have the desire to go and find things out. You are sitting there and want it to come to you because they've programmed that. When people get information, oh, send that to me. And when you send it, and then you're not saying to send it for you to look at it. You're expecting it to come to you already ready to dispute it. And you haven't even read it. And when you're reading it with a mindset of looking for errors instead of reading it. And wondering, how come you didn't see this? How come you haven't heard of it? So now you attack the source because Justin Trudeau and CBC attacked the news that they know is news. And then when CBC or any of these retract, it's a very tiny retraction at the bottom of an article. And many of you still don't see the retractions. Listen. You have already attained perfection. Why and how? Why? Because you were made from perfection. You are the mirror image of perfection. When you came, before you were contaminated with the views of this world, from talk show, daytime shows like The View, but before you've been contaminated from the views of the world, and your parents and grandparents who've been conditioned by generational influencers like Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters, and all the other ones that was put into place for your parents' generation to lead them astray. So you grow up in a household that has already been conditioned with a certain mindset. That is where we are right now with this whole gender nonsense. These children are being birthed to parents and adults who have been formed. So trust me, it's not their own. This is where the love comes in, where you say, Father, forgive them. Most High, forgive them. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, ladies, please forgive them. And by the way, if you go in the book of Proverbs, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, the pronouns, before pronouns were an issue, the pronouns were she. It always talk about her. It always talks about she. When they talk about wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, they always are in the feminine. And they actually said that wisdom, understanding, and knowledge were at the beginning of creation. They helped with the foundation of the... Go read Proverbs and then go back to Genesis, and you'll see that at the beginning of all this creation, the attributes of women, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, were part of the whole makeup of this world. So, you are able to have a mirror image of perfection. It is not impossible. It is attainable because it already has occurred. What it's going to take is you rolling up your sleeves, not to assume the mark of Justin Trudeau's decree, to give you permission to now be human. You have to show the mark that you complied. It's for you to roll up your sleeves and show the mark of being human. And how do you show your mark of being human? Getting your critical thinking going and start allowing yourself to have access to information for you to see what Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, Doug Ford, Jagmeet Singh, for you out there in Alberta, you should be so happy of Danielle. Let me tell you something. Listen, she came from, I believe, the party called Wild Rose. I believe it's called. Listen, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And it is time that Canadians move away from loyalty to parties that are not loyal to them, that have used and abused them, continue to mistreat them, misuse them, see them as gullible, believe that their members, the same members, are below them, beneath them. Step away from those energies that really see you as a laughing stock. They laugh at you. How do you know that? They make public speeches laughing at you, and you would not get access to those speeches. They have public speeches talking about hollowing out the middle class in North and South America. Chrystia Freeland made a speech, just like Justin Trudeau made a speech about he gave the media $200 million. So of course, that's why they're doing what he said. You also probably didn't hear Chrystia Freeland's speech at her hedge fund club there that she was at, when she talked about destroying, hollowing out the middle class in North America, and that it's okay because she believes doing that is going to lift India and China out of poverty, because she believes that to lift India and China and Indians and Chinese out of their poverty is to take away the middle class in America. You don't believe me? Listen to that speech. It's in episode 2, season 2. And Justin Trudeau's speech is in one of my other, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I'll see if I could put it in the link here. All right. So it is attainable, ladies and gentlemen. It is attainable for you to be able to be perfect. And last but not least, I'm going to show you here. There's a list of verses for those who want to return back to being able to smell and recognize the BS. The wisdom of the wise will perish. The discernment of discerning men will be concealed. Did you get that? Do you get that? The wisdom of the wise will perish. You talk about worldly wise. People who think they're so wise of the world. And they can have all these pretty statements. Will perish. The discernment of discerning men will be concealed. It didn't say that will perish. It didn't say it will be concealed. It means that it's there. It's going to be hidden. You're going to have to seek and you will find it. It might be concealed, but you can discover it. You want to have the ability to discern men. You want to have the discernment of discerning men. It's not going to be readily available because you have been inundated with a lot of heaviness. It's going to be concealed, so you're going to have to dig. And this is a series of verses that you can meditate on in regards to the worldly wise, the craftiness of this English language. I'll put the link in the video for you to get through this. And each one of them, meditate on it. Each one of them, take 1 week to just focus on each verse and see where that leads you. See where that leads you. Jeremiah 4:22. For my people are foolish. They know me not. They are stupid children and have no understanding. They are shrewd to do evil. You mean you're quick to do evil. But to do good, they do not know. Mean you're quick to do evil, But to do good is like you don't know how to do good, but you know how to do evil though. Jeremiah 4:22, it said that right there. So I'm going to give you some of this, talking about worldly wisdom. Be very careful of the wisdom of the world, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Be very, very, very careful. The last one there that I'm going to highlight, all of them are highlightable, but I'm just going with the ones that my spirit is just jumping at. 1 Corinthians 1:19. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the cleverness of the clever I will set aside. Listen, there is a day for everything. But in the destruction of the worldly wise, how many of you might be part of that? The destruction of the wise, how many of you are going to be a part of that? They say casualties. How many of you are going to be casualties when the wisdom of the wise is destroyed? How many are going to be casualties? And we might even talk about the housing market. We might talk about the stock market. Many of you are banking a lot on the wisdom of the wise, the worldly wise. When those things burst, those bubbles burst, when there's how many of you are going to be caught up in that? You're going to be casualties of that destruction. I'm not saying not to invest. I'm not saying not to play this worldly game called commerce and marketing and investment. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is analyze yourself to see how much you're depending on that. What are you doing to succeed in that? What compromises? How is your integrity being compromised to be in that space, to operate in that space? Are you capitalizing on the suffering of people? Are you rewarding these liars and these traitors to countries? Are you capitalizing on Justin Trudeau's and Chrystia Freeland's destruction of the middle class, where now people having to refinance, they're now having to reassess, and now you're creating a high ticket price and you're now saying the market is ripe, I can make money because everybody's now desperate, everybody's not, like, are you one of those entrepreneurs that I see many on Instagram where you are making money out of this environment that was caused by these people? Just be wary that how you're making money is not as a result of capitalizing from what Pharaoh did to the people. Make sure that what you're doing is assisting the people in bouncing back so you can kick ass. And we can get these people out of the way. They have to be held accountable. Their generation has to be held accountable. Their children will live with that name knowing what their parents did. Their names are no longer going to be names that are held in high regard. That is what the people, the middle class, we have to have a resolve that these names, Trudeau, Freeland, Singh, Ford, these names that capitalized on the destruction and pocketed and made money and profited on the destruction of people's lives, blood is on their hands because they blocked information that could save lives because they wanted the only outcome to be their vaccine. They have blood on their hands. It is up to the middle class to say, you're not going to get away with this. Your children's children, as they're carrying your name, trust me, your name is not going to be accoladable. Their children might even want to change their name. That might be just the end of their legacy right there, because the children might be so disgusted to learn what the fortunes that their children live under. That's why when that freedom fighter made that emphatic speech about the Justin Trudeau children are so beautiful and and I just had to shut her out. I'm like, okay, no, this is when I know you sold out. Why is his children more important than ours? His children is our children not as beautiful. Our children is not as. How many children died because of Justin Trudeau's policies and Jagmeet Singh that propped up that government? How many of our children died? Miss Freedom Fighter giving an emphatic speech about Justin Trudeau's children. And that's when I saw the sellout. I was just like, wow, okay. And people want to have you as a hero. No, that speech, I saw right through that speech. I was like, okay, got you. I saw right through that speech. Because you had a moment to seize for the people to rally and stand firm that, listen, no. Nobody's talking about overthrowing. It's about standing firm. Standing for truth and demanding the NDP and the Liberal Party take accountability for the lives that they allowed to suffer. The lives that they allowed to suffer. The way they blocked media and the way they demonized doctors, credible doctors and nurses. No, this was a moment for Canadians to have rallied together and you disperse information, knock on doors, get pamphlets, not about F. Trudeau. And how about every one of you, instead of walking down Queen Street with megaphone and making a whole heap of noise, how about if the strategy was to get pamphlets, knock on doors, not just to canvass for a political party and a political candidate. Use your manpower, your human resources, not to donate to all these platforms and special mail. How about we rally and we get our butts out there? The same way we're able to have how many people at Ottawa? If we all decided every weekend, you talk about Jehovah's Witness, every weekend you galvanize a community, you knock on doors and you hand out flyers, and the flyers is a website that's going to give them access to doctors, giving information and telling them the truth. You doctors that are going up to Queen's Park and all of that and Ottawa and want to meet with Ford, how about you go door to door, introduce yourself to people, let them see your humanness. You're going around traveling Canada and you're going to certain places and spaces where people have to come to. Go to the people. Because the only people that's coming to you are the people that's in the bubble. It's an echo chamber. They already know it. That's why I told people stop sharing, because we already know this. Who we need are the people. So we have to go to the people. That is why I love the campaigning time, because that gives me ability to not be kicked out and charged with trespassing. And I knocked on door. My website wasn't any regular political website. Every website gave people access to videos that they didn't know about. So my federal, when I ran as an independent, I had 85 people. That's 85 people that got access to content. And that is why even politically, they started to see the pushback and they started to get concerned. I ran provincially because someone told me about this alternative conservative party, because Doug Ford conservative is not true conservative. That's why I said if you're in Alberta, you need to be so happy with Danielle. She is a true conservative leader. So someone told me about another conservative party because I was going to run as independent again, just like I did federally. And I used an opportunity to knock on doors on my website and my information when I went door to door. And I spoke to them. They were just like, oh my gosh, I wish I had known you. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. There's only so much me and my volunteers could do. My volunteers were a senior citizen, a student, my son. And we were still able to get, I believe, 300 and something. I can't remember what the total was. But those people got access to information. See, I use political campaigning access to people, not a political party, for them to be able to touch, see, and hear from someone. And everything that I'm expecting them to say, I had a response that made them stop and pause. So same thing with the trustee campaign for municipal. That was an opportunity for me to go door to door, and everybody's like, oh my God, I wish I knew you. Oh my God, I wish I knew you before. Again, it's about having support. So people that are volunteering and you're showing up to all of these outdoor experiences and yelling and dinner, how effective are you? And every one of your freedom fighter influencers that I have spoken to, and nobody wants to listen to these strategies because everybody wants just their name and themselves to be the talk about. It was never about changing. It was never about a revolt of people's mind, a revolution of people's mind, so it could push back against the narrative that they're being forced and shoved down. So when that freedom fighter made that speech, I saw right through what she was doing. I'm like, wow, you wasted an opportunity where you could have galvanized the people and tell them to go door to door. If I get arrested tonight, guys, if this happened, I need you to go door to door, rally up, go neighborhood to neighborhood. Do not be F Trudeau, because they've already stigmatized people's perception of who they think we are. You got to play against their game, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about weakening and yelling and, okay, we already done that. Honking and making people afraid because they already heard, oh my God, be afraid of the Canadian flag. Imagine that. Imagine in Canada, the Canadian flag is a sign of terrorism. Imagine that. When people see the Canadian flag, they now equate it to an insurgents. Look how clever Justin Trudeau and the mainstream media have been able to shift the mindset of people. You have bylaw officers and you have guards who are now looking for Canadian flags being waved as a, ooh, are they one of the freedom fighters? Imagine that. The Canadian flag, if it's not authorized to be on Independence Day or Canada Day, sorry, if you wave the flag any other day that Pharaoh didn't sanction, you are to be looked at as a Yahoo, like Doug Ford called his own grassroots conservatives, Yahoo, tinfoil hat wearers, and all of these names. Imagine. There's a way that we could have used what we know that they have done against them and to benefit us. We had the numbers. We could have been more strategic in how we capitalize and use the manpower of the people to have gone door to door in twos, just like as I said, Jehovah's Witness, the Mormons, and all these, they know how to evangelize. Go door to door without pamphlets. Every weekend, you hit a community. You get your walking shoes on. You get your step counter on. So you're gonna, lose weight, get a good cardio workout, and you're gonna share truth. Knock on the door, introduce yourself, let them know why you're here, and let them know that they have heard to be afraid of the truth, but you would like for them to visit this website to get access to the truth. Some of you doctors, go out there. Let people get to see who you are. Like, listen, we could have won. We could have gotten rid of Justin Trudeau, and we could have flipped this around. Even provincially, we could have. But all of those that are in leadership had their own ulterior motives, that this was about them. It was not about freeing the people. So I'm going to close with this. We have a golden opportunity now. If the Liberal government federally call an election, I hope the Conservatives begin to use this time. All you freedom fighters that saying this is not political solution, all of you are liars and all of you are sellouts, because every one of you, we're all being attacked and we all are being affected by the political decisions. So when I heard freedom fighters saying, oh, this is, I don't support politics, I just shake my head, because you're the one who want to run to Florida. You're the one that want to run to the hills, want to go to the Dominican Republic, want to go to the Costa Rica. You want to flee Canada because of why? The political decisions being made, but you don't want to roll up your sleeve and change the political environment. You're speaking from both sides of your mouth, and that's why none of you never made sense to me. And that's why I saw all of you as participating in this thing stretching out further. So I start to question what your motives really are and who are you really supporting. So Get out there. Don't listen to voices like Oprah Winfrey. Don't believe that perfection is unattainable. Start to believe that there is the ability for you to be perfect. There is the ability for you to find individuals who also see it is possible to be perfect. It is attainable to be perfect. There are leaderships out there that can be perfect. It is possible. It is very possible. Did I say not making a mistake? No, but perfection is making a mistake and then being honest and say, shoot, I missed the ball. Shoot, I missed the mark. Ooh, that was not a good decision. Okay, all right. And tell the truth. Okay, this is what I did because of I thought this, da da da. Walk the people through your processing. And then now this is what I realized. Okay, that wasn't so. We're gonna be honest. This is how human, we say being human, but many of you are afraid to show your humanity. And that is why you do so much things to cover up. And your lying now make you dishonest. Because those who can smell a lie and smell something doesn't make sense start to now look at you as, whoa, you're not integral. Because you're the way you move and the way you explain that doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. And then they attack you when you tell them, make it make sense. So it is possible to find men and women out there who are perfect. How are they perfect? They're perfect in pursuing perfection. They are perfect in pursuing what's already attainable. When they miss the mark, they tell you the truth. You might not like it, but they tell you the truth. And then they show you their cards. Nobody is hiding anything. It's transparent, full disclosure. And let's move on to build this thing back. It's possible. So is the Conservative Party the answer? Out of all that's there, they are the best. I believe the fact that they got rid of Erin O'Toole, I saw it as a sign that there are some inside who are not, they no longer wanted to go along with what was happening. And they said, no, we are moving far and far away from what it is to be conservative. And they went as far as possible, which is to remove Erin. And they got a lot of pushback inside and they stood their ground. That is when I started saying, okay, let me give you a second look, because you're willing to stand your ground, willing that if it didn't go your way, you might going to get kicked out, whatever. But you were willing to risk it, and you did it, and you had the support of the people because you realized that many people in the Conservative Party was not happy with what was happening. So I really pray and hope that those that we are seeing as the forerunners of the new face of the Conservative Party are truly in it integrally. And I really hope that the Conservative membership are willing to call foul when they see it, and not to be afraid of the revelation of people that they loved or trusted isn't that way. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, keep on moving. Like, listen, part of the process of detoxifying and detoxing any body, physical body or an entity body, the detoxing period is going to be hard. It's going to be, some people might not even give up. Think about your body when you go into a detox. It's hard. It's harsh. Some might not even make it. If you do a 7-day detox, some people want to quit by day 2. Much as if it's a 24-day or 40-day detox. Oh my gosh. So, but the more you detox and the more you do not compromise, the detoxing period get easier and easier, and then you're like, listen, I've come too far. We're gonna clear this body out. Trust and believe. It's gonna be difficult at first. How do you continue and go through the process? Remembering the big picture, seeing the benefits of what detoxing can do and will do to any body. When you purify and you get rid of all of the toxicity that is built up over years, yes, Initially, it's going to be difficult. In the long run, your children's children's children are going to thank you for the detox you did for your political party, for your country. They're going to thank you. So do not get loyal to a person. Stand loyal to a principle and let those people know that you're not playing around with the principles of what it is to be conservative. And anybody that you see is betraying those principles, they are betraying the conservative party. And you're not going to stand for it anymore. All right? Okay. I'm done for the night. This is Lady O. Stay in action with faith and possibility. Walk in and protect your light. Your purpose will find you. Say what you mean and live like you mean what you say.